Whoa, hello. Good Monday morning. It's really bad weather here. I intend to fall multiple times in this during the making of this video. Either way, during this, my feet are now wet. Today I would like to talk to you and muse a little bit about the concept of accepting risk in software development and in life in general. The concept of accepting that failures might happen and that we allow a little bit more risk of failure rather than trying to anticipate everything that can go wrong and act defensively. So being a little bit more aggressive and a little bit more fearless when it comes to development and have more of an experimental mindset rather than a defensive one. So I was having this discussion with my girlfriend Isa, who is also a software developer, around this concept that you sometimes run into, the situation that you sometimes run into in software development, where you're about to do a solution to some kind of problem. You know, implement some library or start doing things in a new way, or like implementing this new framework, or starting to add like networking calls in your app at points, and someone on your team or yourself for that matter starts, going down this path of what if. Like, what if this makes the application heavier? What if this makes the what if we are becoming dependent on this open source project that is not being maintained correctly? Stuff like that. Basically, starting to think about contingencies. And of course, there's nothing wrong in itself around thinking about things that might go wrong. It's fine to analyze the situation and consider things that might be threats. That's fine, but it might also put you in this state of analysis paralysis and fear. And what's the core problem that I want to discuss here is that we as humans have the utmost confidence, utmost overconfidence in our ability to anticipate problems. We basically think that we're psychic, and that is why psychics can sell their services, really, because humans think that we are super good at predicting the future, and then that some people are, and that we ourselves are. Oh, by the way, there's a sauna over there. It's pretty cool. Can't see it now, but people are skinny dipping in it. And you have probably seen this in life many times over, like not necessarily in your software developer life, but in life in general, that you're about to do some big change, move to a new city, move into a new relationship, move into a new job, get a new computer, switch from Android to iPhone, whatever. Might be many things, and before you do, your brain tends to start trying to figure out things that that might be problems, threats that you're anticipating, so to speak. And it's, I don't know about you, but for me it's very rare that the things that I worry about were the things that actually came to be. Not that problems didn't arise, they certainly did. It's just that the problem that arose were completely different from the ones I anticipated. And that is the core problem with this whole thing of trying to anticipate threats, is that your ability to accurately do it is so incredibly limited. And the reason for this is that, my theory is that our brains were evolved during an era long time ago, where we were basically trying to plan for pretty simple contingencies of high risk. So, for instance, like tigers hiding in the bushes, maybe, so we avoid bushes. Tigers don't hide in bushes, but you get my point. Or things like food is going to run out because our crops will stop growing in the winter, so we need to stockpile. Stockpiling is something a lot of mammals do. It's a pretty simple thing, but it's like that's one of the things that we use our brains to do, like these threats assessments. Or I don't know, like, is the ice thin? Perhaps we shouldn't walk on the ice because it might break. You know, and what all these old threats of the old world share is that they were low in complexity, so they were easy to reason about, and they were high in risk. So we were very, very mindful of them, and we considered, like, paid a lot of attention to these possible threats because, like, we would die if they came to be. But the problem with using a brain which is built for this and apply it to something as like software development or something like moving cities or anything really in life, in our high complex, high speed world, is that the brain is built for low complexity, low complexity tasks of high risk, while software threats are high complexity and low risk. If they are really, really hard to predict, there are so many moving parts, and if things break, yeah, of course it's bad. Like, we're gonna lose revenue because our customers are gonna be angry with us. Perhaps like we're actually gonna lose money in a real way, and people are perhaps like at worst going to get fired. But generally, unless you're doing some kind of medical or medical software or running a nuclear power plant or something like this, in which case this episode does not apply really, then your tasks, like the threats, are going to be pretty low risk compared to people dying. This is of course nothing new that I'm saying here. Like, a lot of software developers are yapping on about it all the time, and I'm gonna yap on about it today as well, because it's a way that our brains are built. It's a bug in our brain, so we need to be constantly reminded about it. And other people have coined phrases like premature optimization is the root of all evil, or Facebook for a while used the term move fast and break things to get you out of this mindset. And premature optimization is the root of all evil talks about, like, when you start, Jesus Christ, start doing optimizations of your code, like, oh my god, this piece of code is so inefficient, but in reality the problem is that code is only hit a couple of times per second, which doesn't really affect the performance of your application at all, while another part of the code that looks or is way more efficient is hit like 4,000 times a second, and that's the part that needed optimization. But you didn't really know that until the application was in production, or until you actually started like profiling it on actual users using the actual software. And the reason why you didn't see it is that the system, or the system is just so complex. It's your brain is built for, like, crops and tigers and bushes and shit. Like, it cannot really like deal with the cognitive load that would be needed to predict and anticipate problems in a software system. And that is why the phrase premature optimization is the root of all evil. And it doesn't mean that optimization is bad. It means that you should be wary of doing it early and try to, like, analyze instead of predict. Analyze instead of predict. By the way, have a look at how cool this is. Like, I love, like, these old boats that with all kinds of mysterious Shit. So what I want to get at here is that your initial impulse in situations of where there's a lot of unknowns is to try to anticipate problems and threats, but your brain is built for a low complexity, high danger world. But the world we're in is super high complexity and rather low danger compared to what your meat computer is tuned for. So you're going to give too much weight to the threats, but most importantly, and what is really the important thing in this case is that you simply cannot predict what's going to happen. You're going to make incorrect predictions. The threats that you're going to anticipate are probably not going to happen. What's going to happen is completely different things, and it's those completely different things, the unknown unknowns, that I would like to focus on, because if we have these unknowns that we cannot possibly predict, no matter how much pre-analysis we try to make, and no matter how much we try to think about the problems up front before we get into things, if we always have these unknowns, then what to do? Well, you just have to be very good at receiving problems, like catching them. Life is going to throw you curveballs all the time. I love Murphy's Law that if something can go wrong, it will go wrong, and I would like it to have this addition that you also will not know what goes wrong. It's expressions like when shit hits the fan. There's always a when, it's not if shit hits the fan. Shit is gonna happen, and you need to be good at dealing with that as it comes along. So instead of trying to anticipate everything, single thing that can go wrong when you're doing software development, it's very important to accept that shit will go wrong, and you need to be very capable at dealing with it when it does. So having a fast deployment process, having a ton of error logging and exception logging, having like a quick turnaround cycle. So if it takes you 2 weeks to get a release out, then you are simply not going to be able to. You're not going to be especially good at dealing with these unanticipated problems. And the problem is when they happen, you cannot get stuck in this shit like, oh, we didn't think about this hard enough. We didn't think about everything that can happen. Why didn't anybody think of this? No, you didn't think of it because it's software development is too high complexity for you to think of it. The problem is not that you were not careful enough. The problem is that you are not flexible enough to fix shit as it comes along. And I think this is also true of real life, that it's worry is not a completely useless feeling. It might be great, but often you spend your time worrying too much about contingencies, and instead you should just accept that shit will happen, and that you just have to develop yourself to be a capable person that can deal with life's hardships as they arise, instead of walking around in fear. Because if you walk around in fear, you're gonna have to walk very, very, very slowly, and in this world it's not gonna help you that much, because problem's gonna hit you either way. And that's it. That's my thoughts on that. What do you think? Write a comment down below. What are your experiences with risk and failure and survival and threats in software development, and analyzing like your balance between analyzing up front or analyzing afterwards and dealing with failure and stuff like that. Tell me your thoughts, I would love to hear them. Comment down below. The sponsor of today's episode is you. As you might know, this show is mostly funded by you, the patrons. So if you are a patron of Fun Fun Function, you get access to the Fun Fun Forum, which is this little place where you can privately discuss matters in software development with me and your fellow developers, your fellow patrons. It's a really nice little community that I'm very, very proud of. If you want to support the show and get access to that, you can go to patreon.com/funfunfunction. That link is also in the episode description. And in case you're completely new to the show, you have just watched an episode of Fun Fun Function. I release these every Monday morning, 0800 GMT. But you will forget that, so you can subscribe by clicking there, or watch another episode right now by clicking there. I am MPJ, and until next Monday morning, stay curious.